Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motor Chaos. This is your host, Dave. I got a line of special guest, A-Fuel Dragster driver, Jasmine Salinas. How you doing, Jasmine?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. So, how's the drag's been running for you?
The Dragster's running pretty good so far. We started the season. I was a brand new driver, and the team was everybody was new to each other. And so there was definitely a huge learning curve. And I think it wasn't until about maybe like halfway through the season where everybody kind of got into the groove and had a really good movement going on with each other in the car. But now the car's running pretty good. I think by the end of this year, I'll have done 15 races. I think 13 of those nationals and then 2 regionals, or I think. But we've been doing really good, and I think about for my first time out and kind of our first time out as a team, we've qualified in the top half for 70% of the races. So, it's definitely not where we want to be because, like anybody who's a racer, you want to come out and be winning. But it's definitely been really motivating to see that we are able to come out and be competitive.
Now, you licensed for A-Fuel last year?
Sorry?
I said you licensed for A-Fuel Dragster last year?
Yes, I was licensed, and I did compete at a couple, I think like the Indy Regional I did, but it was all honestly just like testing, a lot of test sessions all last year. I think at least once or twice a month I was flying out somewhere on a weekend in between my full-time job and just trying to get as much track time as possible.
So now, what got you into drag racing? Your dad?
Yeah, so my dad started racing in the Nostalgia Series when I was a little kid. So we grew up at the racetracks in Bakersfield and Sacramento, but it wasn't honest. And we did like the junior dragsters, but I honestly didn't really get into the sport and really fall in love with it until I started working on my dad's race team in 2017 and 2018. And I think what really, like, I always loved drag racing and I loved the speed, but I think what really did it for me was working on the car and just seeing how much goes into it, how much time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears these guys and girls out there are putting into this car. And it was so amazing to see that people from all over the world were coming to work on something and build it and just like make like the impossible happen. And so like being able to like get hands on with the car and see that I had some sort of impact, positive or negative, onto a car, it was really empowering for me, and it gave me such a huge appreciation for drag racing, for the sport, and for the fans and everyone involved. And so I think that moment for me was really when I realized I actually want to do this. I want to get behind the wheel, and I want to do this forever.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what year did you actually start your drag racing career?
I technically started, I think, maybe 6, 7. I think it was 2007, maybe 2008. I was in high school, so I kind of got into it a little late, towards the end of the junior drag racing cutoff. But I guess I honestly really didn't get my actual career start where I was kind of racing competitively. Honestly, this year is my first year, I would say.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now, besides Scrappers, do you have any other sponsors for your dragster?
Not at the moment. That is something that I am definitely working on. I've never had to go out and do sponsorships, and it's my first time, to be my first year in racing. And so I'm learning all the nuances of what goes into putting together a sponsor packet and a deck and trying to figure out how to negotiate and talk to people. So yeah, I'm learning from as many people as I can about this and just trying anything possible, but hoping to bring in some sponsors sometime in 2020, and try to utilize partnerships with Scrappers Racing and NHRA to help promote whichever companies are interested in the sport and want to be involved, and also use it as a platform to connect them with NHRA.
All right. Now, besides your dad being a big inspiration to you? Do you have any other racers that inspired you?
Definitely all three of the Force girls. My dad started in the Nostalgia series, so we actually honestly didn't know what Top Fuel was until a couple of years after he started racing. And I remember my first race I ever went to. It was a long time ago, like before 2010, maybe like 2008 or something. And I remember going to Sonoma, and before we even got out of the car, just the ground shook underneath me. And we were parked up in like the nosebleed hill, super far away, and I thought there was an earthquake, and my dad was just looking at me, he's like, those are the cars. And I remember going into the grandstands and everything shaking so violently, and it was so loud. And then I remember seeing this girl in this car, and my dad's like, do you know who that is? And he's like, it's Ashley Force. And I just remember just being so incredibly wowed. And then I remember we got a chance. We were super far away because there was a huge crowd at her trailer, but I just remember like from a distance just staring off and looking at her, and I was like, whoa, like, you know, she was like, almost my height. She seemed like this young girl, and she was so sweet and kind, but she was able to power down this crazy car. And it, for me, I've never seen anybody like it, especially, you know, a female. There's not a lot of women kind of doing such crazy badass stuff, and so that always stuck with me. And then from there, I kind of just watched, you know, any time they were doing interviews or races, just watched how they handled themselves and how they interacted with people. And I think the biggest thing for me, just besides the fact that, you know, they were women in the sport, it was just they were super inspiring and were able to connect with people. And, you know, they never forgot where they came from. And for me, that was something my dad always taught me, you know, is to don't let all this limelight and all these people make you think you're something different. And you know, I've seen them, and now we're super fortunate. You know, in 2017 when my dad came out, like, we were able to park next to them, and I got to park next to Brittany Force. You know, it was like this girl I looked up to my whole life, and it just being able to see that they haven't changed, you know, and they really just genuinely love the sport, and they love talking to people and making the time to acknowledge people and race with their dad. You know, it's really a family sport, and they've definitely been a huge inspiration for me and how I move forward in the sport.
How was your experience smelling the nitro for the first time?
The smell of nitro?
Yeah.
The first time I remember just choking, and I ran away crying, and I was like, what is this? Like, people do this for fun? But then the moment I heard the motor turning over, you know, and everything revving up, and it just, that like made going through that pain worth it. And now it's like to the point where I follow it around and sniff it. I love that smell so much because I know what's going to come after that smell.
Yeah. So when you warm up your car, do you put the mask on, or do you not wear one?
I don't. In the alcohol cars, it's not so bad. I know sometimes, like, I definitely get a little teary-eyed because we'll do two different warm-ups, and sometimes we'll just do it just strictly on alcohol, and then we'll turn on the fuel for the second warm-up. But, you know, I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can, because I know once I get into it, or if I ever get the chance to get into a top fuel car, it's going to be a little different, and I'll definitely wear a gas mask then.
So now, what was it like for you the first time to drive a dragster?
So, being a first-time
driver? What was it like to get behind the wheel for the first time of a dragster?
The first time I got in one, let's see. The first time I was in a top alcohol dragster, I wasn't nervous. I was not as nervous as I thought I'd be, and I think it was because when I finally made the decision with my dad that this was something I wanted to do, I had somebody send over just all of the instructions, and it was in this little Google Doc, and they just literally typed out, like, step by step, this is what you do. And so I sat we planned about a year before I even actually licensed. And I sat every day for an hour straight, just practicing the routine because I wanted to make sure, because I had a lot of people telling me, I literally honestly went from nothing straight into a top alcohol dragster. So I definitely, and for many reasons, good reasons, I had people telling me I shouldn't be doing this. And, if anything, that was motivation for me to do it. And so I practiced the procedures, and practicing them is one thing, but getting in it is a whole different animal. And so at least I definitely felt calm, at least knowing what I was doing. So when I stepped on that pedal and everything just like flew by me, it took me several passes to finally start remembering what was happening. And I remember I get to the top end and everybody was asking me like, how did that feel? What did you see? And I was like, honestly, I don't remember, but it was just so crazy. And that just made me want to do it even more because I knew I'd eventually get there and I knew I'd finally be able to remember. And, it's awesome because now I'm at a point where I can honestly remember like at the 3:30 mark, this is what happened, or at 6:60, I remember feeling this. And it's so cool how your brain is able to adjust. It takes time, and fortunately, I've been very lucky to get a lot of seat time this year, my first year out. But the first time I took off, I remember screaming with so much excitement, and I was like, "Oh crap, I'm hooked."
So what's the quickest pass you've made with this dragster?
The quickest one I did. I've only gone 267. I know I did a 521 pass in Sonoma, and I let off, I think, around 1,000 feet too. So I know we would have gone a lot faster. But yeah, 521 and then a 267. Hoping to definitely next year get down into the teens. There's some incredible drivers in this field, and they've set some really great records. And, I'm shooting for the stars, and my goals are to beat those records. Those 515s, those 510s,
Awesome. Now, how many crew members do you have?
So we have 4 crew members on our team. Arthur Gallant is my crew chief. I am so incredibly fortunate. It's the timing of when everything worked out and how we ended up being connected with each other and working together now. It's so great, and I wouldn't have anybody else.
And who are your other crew members?
I have Andrew Waits, which is known as Tex around the pits. Tex, or Andy, he was working on my dad's top fuel team. He comes from the top fuel areas, but he definitely brings a lot of insight from the professional sport down over into the sportsman category. And then I have Paul Smith doing clutch in the back, and he's super great hands-on guy. And then I have Jeff Barnes, also comes from the A-Fuel categories and runs some other cars. And so, we get everybody coming out together, and they have all these different insights and knowledge that they bring to this team, and it really makes a really well-rounded team.
Yeah, you got to have a good crew behind you to keep that dragster running good.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, in this A-Fuel dragster field, do you get any advice from any other drivers in the A-Fuel dragster field?
Any advice to give? Let's see. I'd say the biggest advice that I'd give to anybody that wants to get involved or is already involved, just be humble, just be humble in your experience being in the sport, be humble with the cars. That's the biggest and best advice I've had from others. Just be open to learning everything and hearing what people say, but also I'd say selectively, listen. I think the biggest thing I've learned this year, and my sister and I have learned, because both of our first years coming out, is that, everybody will have opinions about you and have opinions to share about your racing, but what we've learned is that the people who usually have been in those situations and have actually driven the cars or raced the bike, their opinions, I think, holds a little more value. It's they know what it's like to get behind the wheel, and I think anybody else that hasn't been able to do what we're able to do, all the racers out there, it's something that's very unique and it's very humbling. These cars will turn on you in a second, and it can make anybody, even the most seasoned drivers, look like absolute newbies. And it's I think that's what's exciting, though, is that nothing's guaranteed out there. And so I guess just for me, so I always try to remind myself just to stay humble, and just because you have a good run, you can go right out and smoke the tires the next round, or just be off your game, or anything can happen out there. And so just because you're doing good now or running good now doesn't mean it's going to last forever. And I think that makes you appreciate each run and every moment that you have in this car so much more.
Yeah, and also always be humble to the fans.
Exactly. Yeah. The fans of it. Yeah, I'm a very shy and introverted person, but I've had the chance to meet so many incredible people, and it's really drag racing's really brought me out of my comfort zone in that aspect. But it's just seeing the people, and I remember being one of those people just so enamored by the sport and by the people doing it, and people spend their hard-earned money and they take the time to come out, and the least that you can do is something I've learned from Antoine Brown, kind of watching him when my dad first came out, even before, he really takes the time to, so there's people out there where they'll sign stuff and take a photo, but then there's people like Antoine and the Force Girls where they look at you, and they acknowledge you, that you're a person, not just a fan, and it's something that's, I think, forgotten a lot. And so definitely staying humble to the people that make this sport, which are the fans.
Yeah, all you racers are just regular people, just like us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I have a lot of people that come and talk to me and just think I'm this larger than life person, and I tell them I'm just an assistant, and back home, I'm an assistant job, and I just live in a normal 200 square foot little space, and I work. I have a regular job. I put my pants on the same way as you, so it's just, that's how I look at it at the end of the day.
Yep. Now, for you, Jasmine, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions when you're out there on the track?
Yeah, so at each new track that I'm racing at, which most of them have been new this year, I usually like to go to the top end and just kind of get a visual of where the sand pit is, and see kind of the setup. And then right after we'll do the warm-up, I'll usually kind of just go into my trailer and just honestly kind of sleep or just turn off the lights and relax, listen to some music. And it's kind of a weird mix of relaxing, but then getting myself pumped up, but then relaxing. And so I try to balance it out. As far as superstitions go, I definitely do a walk around my car. I'll double check parachutes, tap them, see if anything feels weird. And I always get on my car on my left side. I don't know why. I've done it on the right side and nothing changed, but I've also learned in this sport that consistency is key, and so I'll consistently keep getting in on the left side.
Okay. Now, what kind of preparation, how do you prep yourself for a weekend of drag racing? How do you get your mind in preparation?
See, it's kind of, and I think most people can speak to this because most people out there do have other jobs, and other lives outside of racing. And so it's really hard to kind of go from that one world that you're in and jump into a totally different one. Usually the night before, I personally like to just not watch any TV, just lay and just relax, especially spend time with my partner and my dog, because I usually travel without them. So just kind of have a little one last night, hanging out in the house. But honestly, a lot of my like pre-preparation happens on the airplane. Um, I'm usually flying from California, flying a lot to the Midwest and East Coast and down south. So I have a good couple hour flights that I'll do. And usually because of the nature of my job, I have to do red eyes. Also coming from California, it's hard. So yeah, I'll do a red eye and sleep on the plane and kind of use those couple hours as moments to just mentally prepare myself and say, okay, this is it, get in the zone. And from that moment on until the moment I get back on the plane, I'm kind of in this very focused mindset. You know, in general, I don't drink alcohol, but definitely before a race and throughout race weekend, and just anything to help keep me on my toes.
Okay, now what are some of your favorite tracks to race on?
Ooh, I definitely we have Vegas coming up, and I love Vegas. Vegas because my dad won his first race in Top Fuel there earlier this year. It was my second race ever that I went to the semifinals, and it's Vegas, which is always exciting. I love Sonoma. Top Alcohol doesn't run at the Nationals anymore there, but I did the divisional race there this year, and it's my home track. It's only I think an hour drive from my office in San Francisco. I love Charlotte. Charlotte is it's my favorite track of the circuit. It's the facilities are incredible. The weather I think is we've had some bad weather, but even then, I mean, I don't know, Charlotte. Something about North Carolina, I love it.
Now, where do you get all your fire safety equipment from?
So right now we utilize Simpson. I am an incredibly small person. I am 5'2" and 100 pounds, so I technically have the measurements of a child. And Simpson actually is really great. They make everything pretty close to my size. I have Simpson helmet, my fire suits from Simpson, my shoes, my hybrid, and then I think I'm running Impact seatbelt.
Now, do you have any advice for say it's a young girl listens to the interview and they're inspired and they want to become a dragster driver like you? What kind of advice would you give them?
Let's see. I would definitely tell any girl or woman that's interested and wants to get involved. I think anybody that says drag racing and going fast isn't scary is full of crap. It's when you look at it, it's something where you are knowingly and willingly putting your life on the line. Even though there's incredible safety features and safety safari is so incredible. They were so helpful with my sister with her crash in Chicago. But even despite that, things happen, and I think the biggest thing that I would say is, despite your fears, like just because you have a fear of something doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and do it. And I think being fearless isn't, I think people look at drivers and you'll hear drivers say, oh, I'm not scared, but it's, I don't think that's what they're saying. I don't think they're saying is that they're not scared. I think what they're saying and what they mean by being fearless is that they acknowledge those risks and they acknowledge their fears, but they do it anyways, and I think that's what's more empowering. And I think that narrative of racing needs to be shared more because, if everyone's just going around saying, oh, I have no fears and I can do anything, and they make it sound like you're this larger in life person. But I think that's where the real strength comes from in these drivers is that the fact that they can do it despite their fears. And I think that's more empowering to hear and more inspiring.
All right, now, have you reached any milestones in your drag racing career yet?
Sonoma race in July, I went to my first final round. That for me was really, really special moment. You know, it's something that it always, like, I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I'd get there, but I just wasn't sure, you know, when or how or if it would ever happen. And, you know, there weren't some of the, like Megan Meyer wasn't running there. I don't think Troy was running either. But, you know, so it's as great as that moment was for me, you know, even though I went out, it's as great as that moment was, you know, I want that moment to be with some of the top people of my category, you know, because it's, I mean, it's great if you go to the final, but if you don't have all of the top competitors there, then, I mean, you know, are you really that great? That's how I look at it, you know, and so for me, as wonderful as that felt, I set my standards a little higher. Another milestone, I guess, was my first round that I won. I won on a hole shot in Vegas earlier this year. That was really cool for me. That one I really hold on to. And, I'm struggling a lot with my light, and I just have really horrible reactions. You know, as a driver, that's like one of the main things that you can do, show that you can, like, be a driver and be out there. And I was struggling so much with my reaction times, and I couldn't get it. And then I with that one, my first time I won was on a hole shot. I think that was when I kind of stopped doubting myself and told myself that, you know, maybe I can do this. Maybe I do have what it takes. And so for me, that's always going to stick with me. It'll always be special.
Now, have you had any accidents in your drag racing career so far?
Not yet. I think we were doing some testing in Darlington, South Carolina, and my throttle pedal got stuck on wide open. Luckily, it was just right at the hit, so I was able to shut the car off instantly and just get it to a halt. But I mean, I've been very fortunate. So far, nothing, but I know you never say never in drag racing.
Well, knock on wood, you won't have any accidents.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're going to ask you a few fun questions here now.
Okay.
Outside of drag racing, you have any other hobbies?
I feel like I need something cooler to say, but honestly, no. I go up to Tahoe a lot with my partner, and we'll do camping and kind of just that actually has been my favorite thing to do when I'm not working or not racing. It's a little escape. We work in the city and live in the city, and so it's really hard between the city life and then traveling on the road a lot. So going up to Lake Tahoe, Northern California, has been really my biggest escape and the only time I can really just calm down and relax and get a little bit of fresh air. So kind of being lazy by the lake has been the best thing.
All right, now in the A-Field Dragster racing, do you have a greatest competitor?
Do I have a, sorry?
In the A-Field Dragster racing, do you have a greatest competitor out of all of them, or they're all equally competitive for you?
Oh. I think everybody's the same as far as competition. Whenever whether it's qualifying or on race day, I never ask who I'm running, and I never look at the run sheet. I just ask what lane and what pair, and even in the lanes, I usually try to just honestly not even look at the car until I get to the top end and know who I was running. But there are people that I definitely look up to and people that I would consider the best. And those are the people like Megan Meyer. She is such an inspiration. The whole Meyer setup, they really are really incredible to watch, and Joey Severance as well. But those are people where they've done some incredible things in the sport and have really set the pace for everybody else to play catch up with. And I expect the impossible out of myself, and so those are people where I don't look as competition, but I definitely look to as, I guess, more inspiration.
All right, now, if you could do time traveling and go backwards in time, would you do anything differently with your racing career?
Let me think. I don't know what I'd do differently. I don't know. This whole year's been like a learning year for me. I guess if anything, I probably would have started racing a little younger. In high school, I was dreaming of getting into my dad's old nostalgia car and running the Nostalgia Series at Bakersfield. And when I was getting ready to go to college, that was my dream to go do that. So I was looking at colleges near racetracks. But as much as I would have loved to get that seat time, it was something I sacrificed so that I could go focus on school. And so I'd love the seat time, but I'm also recognize the benefits that I was able to receive by being able to go to university and get my degree, and then kind of start a little later in life. But if I could still kind of get both benefits, then yeah, I definitely would have loved to race a little earlier.
All right, what's been your most embarrassing moment on the track?
I think my most embarrassing moment was in Sonoma again. I think it was final round of qualifying, and it was super late at night, and so I knew, like, the weather was amazing. I knew we were going to run such a good run. I knew we were going to get awesome header flames coming out. I was so pumped and so excited. I've been running super good all day. And right before we go to start up the car, my crew chief, Arthur, comes over, and he's like, okay, so I just want to let you know, we might smoke the tires. So you just got to be able to catch it. And I, still a rookie driver, let that get into my head. And all I could think about was, oh, crap, I got to catch it. And for some reason, I attempted to pedal the car when it wasn't even doing anything. And I was just, what am I doing? And it was just like, I've been going on such a good day. And then to kind of end the day like that with this embarrassing pedal for no reason, I was just like, but, I started the next day over and just try to pretend like it didn't happen. Luckily, it wasn't a national event, so it wasn't on TV.
Yeah. Now, as far as the sport of drag racing goes, do you have a bucket list of anything you still would want to do in drag racing?
Yes, I want to get into Top Fuel. I'm trying to earn my way up into that and, show that I belong out there. Before I do that, I have to win some races in A Fuel. I won't jump into Top Fuel without knowing that I can be successful in A Fuel. That's my kind of promise I made to myself. Regardless if there's a car, something it's something I have to do. Once I win some races in A Fuel, I want to get into Top Fuel, and I want to beat my dad. That's definitely on my bucket list. And then I just want to race against all the women, that are in sport. That is, every time I get to do that, I know it doesn't matter your gender identification or race or their cars are equalizers, but I think just still being able to race against your idols, that something that's really special and important to me. And then obviously, try to win championships and just not just be a throwaway card, not just be out there to fill up the field, but, to be taken seriously and maybe be that person one day where people do get a little nervous to race, Just be taken seriously and respected by my peers, I guess.
I think you're gonna be okay and make it to the top few and go against Leah Pritchard and Courtney. You'll be it. I mean, not Brittany. I mean Brittany. You're gonna make it.
Yeah, that's the high goal someday. So work my way up and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, you got a good dad there that drives Top Fuel, so you should be okay.
Yeah, he's all right.
He's all right. Now, what's your favorite food to eat?
My favorite food?
Yeah, what's your favorite food to eat?
Pizza.
What do you like on your pizza?
I'm really plain actually. I just like just regular like pepperoni pizza. It's a good like greasy pepperoni pizza. Maybe a root beer.
So your favorite drink would be root beer?
Yeah. I don't drink soda except when I eat pizza. I try to limit my soda intake.
All right, now if you and your partner have time to go on a vacation, what's your favorite vacation getaway?
Hawaii. My parents, when they were younger, that was their first trip they ever did together was to Hawaii. They got married in Hawaii, and being California, it's really close to us, only I think 5-hour flight, and so we were fortunate enough to be able to go visit it a lot growing up. I've been fortunate through college to be able to have traveled to, Asia and Europe and South America, and I've been to a lot of places and I'm very fortunate, but Hawaii, I will say, is by far the most beautiful place I've ever been to.
Awesome. Okay, a few more questions for you. What's your favorite color?
Black.
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Definitely a dog person. I'm allergic to cats, unfortunately.
All right. Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, that's hard. I like Shrek. Yeah, I like Shrek a lot.
All right. Favorite music to listen to?
Classic rock.
Favorite classic rock band?
The Doors.
Okay, can't go wrong with the Doors. I'm sure your dad got you into classic rock music, right?
Yeah, we used to live 2.5 hours away from school because we couldn't afford to live anywhere close to the Bay Area. So we lived really far away, and my dad would drive us to school in his custom hot rods. And so we'd leave around 4 o'clock in the morning, and it'd be dark, and we'd have to be sleeping under a blanket, my sister and I, and he'd be blasting the Doors the whole way to school, and then the whole way back home, another 2.5 hour drive home late at night, and blast all the day the Doors. So, we spend weekends at car shows, and there's always the Doors, and so I'm forever stuck with them.
Yeah, because I remember the interview I did with your dad. He said his favorite music was classic rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's a lot of that.
So what was your favorite cartoon when you were a kid?
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob
SpongeBob.
SquarePants. Yep.
It's so good.
All right, now.
Even as an adult, it's so good to watch.
Yeah. Now, when you're at the track, do you have certain eating habits? Do you eat light when you're on a race day?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't like to eat a lot of heavy food. I eat a lot of fruit, maybe some like power or energy bars. I've tried to, eat. There's been races where we just had really long delays, and I ate like a hamburger, or some fast food or something really heavy with sauce and pasta. And I don't know, something about like most of the places it's really hot and sitting in your really thick fire suit, and the idea of being super full in that while tighten up and going fast, this does not sound like a good combination. So yeah, I usually eat pretty light and just drink a crazy amount of Gatorade and water to stay hydrated.
All right, now, what's been the fondest memory of your drag racing career so far?
I think when my whole family was at the starting line when it was the final round in Vegas earlier this year, and it was the 4 wide, and I watched my dad win his first race. It's something that, we always said, yeah, we'll go win a race and we want to do this, but it's, when we first started racing and we did all the tours at the Force shop and the DSR shops and Coletta's, and you just see how much energy and power and resources these teams have. It, for a small team coming out, it almost feels impossible, and so it always, my dad growing up, he'd always say he was going to go do things that always seemed impossible, and he would always make them actually happen. And so when I was standing there on that line and I watched him win that race, I broke down in the ugly crying tear face, but it when he won, it made me feel like I could do that too someday. And so for me, that was really special. And then just having my whole family, my sisters and my mom and I all just grab each other and just cry at ugly faces. But it was really special to be there as a family for that, to support him.
Well, hopefully, in the future, you're gonna have one of those moments.
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully,
I'll be crying for you.
Yeah,
the big win for you.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
to give that to them.
Well, Jasmine, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, thank you. I know I've been a little crazy to get a hold of, but I appreciate your persistence. It's been really great talking with you.
Now I have to try to get your sister on here.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
Now, you have any final words or thank yous, anything before we close?
I don't have any sponsors, so thanks to my dad for giving me this opportunity. My parents, my whole family actually, we work really hard to be able to do this. So it's my sister Jackie, my sister Gianna who races, the youngest one Janae, my mom, and my dad. We all support each other, and I know I would never have had this opportunity if it wasn't for any of them. Yeah, and everybody else that loves drag racing, thank you. You gave us a reason to come out and do this. We don't do it for anything else, but thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jasmine.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll do another one in the future.
Yes, please.
You have a great night.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye. Bye.